All right, good afternoon. So here we are on the last day of our week-long annual educational symposium of the American Parkinson's Disease Association Connecticut chapter. It's still me, Rachel Jeffreyon, APDA Connecticut Information and Referral Center Coordinator. Welcome. We have learned so much over these last 4 days on this year's theme, Technology and Innovation in Parkinson's Disease Management, and we are grateful to all of you who have joined us each day. We hope you'll continue to participate in all the other programs and services we have planned for the community throughout the rest of 2021. So be sure to follow us at apdaparkinson.org/CT to keep informed. 2021 is sure to be a better year than last year, right? Join us in this fight against Parkinson's disease and learn more about the support APDA provides across the country through our network of chapters and information and referral centers. APDA also offers a research grant program and Centers for Advanced Research. We all agree that being informed about PD and the treatment options that are available is the best way to empower yourself and take control of your own health. And here to recognize all of you as we bring our symposium to a close is the Medical Director of the APDA CT, Information and Referral Center, and Medical Director of the Chase Family Movement Disorder Centers of Hartford Healthcare, my boss and my friend, Dr. Joy Antonell de Marqueda.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you to all of you for joining us this whole week as we brought to you programming that we thought was relevant and valuable to you and your loved ones as we continue this battle against Parkinson's disease and move forward in all of our efforts. We truly feel so privileged that you have chosen to be with us to close out April as Parkinson's Awareness Month and to really be in this pivotal moment in history when we are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel after a very difficult year. We know that 2020 and even up to this time in 2021, the times have been very difficult for all the people that we love and care for with Parkinson's disease. And those of you who know me know that I'm already starting to cry, and it's just who I am, because I know how challenging this year has been for our community of people with Parkinson's disease. It has been the anxiety of a new unknown enemy that we were bombarded with information on, not knowing the right way to turn or the best thing to do to keep ourselves safe. It was the loss of our social connections, the inability to see friends and family. It was the loss of our exercise classes and support groups that we know are so important to keep us well as we want to be our best selves and live our life to the fullest with Parkinson's disease. And of course, it was also our fear about accessing the care that we need, seeing our physicians, seeing our clinicians, seeing our providers. So we lived through all that, although we did have some losses. And we lost a number of people this year to this pandemic and to other things. But we know that in full faith, everything that our community has gone through has been supported with our faith in a higher being and our faith in our strength and courage for facing everything that lies ahead. It does feel, though, that the new dawn is here. I hope you've all gotten your vaccinations because we are looking forward to moving back to some degree of normalcy. And the APDA is going to be here waiting for you. It's particularly bittersweet to be celebrating April this year because we usually have a whole flurry of activities for the community. But at the very least, we had this symposium. And we are so grateful that we could be together in this format. So again, thank you for joining us all week. We hope that you have found the programming to be valuable. we will continue to bring you programming that we feel is relevant and helpful to everyone, your families, your loved ones, and you with Parkinson's disease. We are your partners always at the American Parkinson's Disease Association, this team that you have gotten to know better. We are here for you in any capacity that you feel that you need. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rachel, for giving me this opportunity to address your audience. And please do feel free to contact us at any point.
Thank you, Dr. DeMarcata, for your inspiring words and your obvious love and passion for our Parkinson's community. And I'm sure you'll join me in expressing our gratitude to the sponsors of this year's symposium, our gold level sponsors, Adamas and Neurocrine, our silver level sponsors, AbbVie, APDA, Griswold Home Care, Medtronic, Synovian, and Supernus, and our bronze level sponsors, Brightview on New Canaan and Kyowa Kirin. So it is the last day of our symposium, and you can bet the ground rules have not changed. You've all been muted to minimize unintentional distractions to the speaker from background noise, but we do want to hear from you. So please feel free to type any questions you may have in the chat box or the Q&A throughout the presentation. Just click on the icons at the bottom banner on your screen and type in your question in the forum addressed to everyone. And to introduce our keynote speakers today is Tara Hamilton, representing one of our silver sponsors, Supernus.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so very exciting to have the opportunity to introduce this very dynamic couple, Mr. and Mrs. Larry and Rebecca Gifford, American expats living in Vancouver with their 11-year-old son, Henry. The Giffords are motivational speakers and co-hosts of the award-winning podcast, When Life Gives You Parkinson's, on its third season of taking listeners on their journey with PD. Larry was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's at a very young age in 2017 when he was only 45 years old. He serves on the Michael J. Fox Foundation's Patients Council, co-founded the PD advocacy group called PD Avengers, and is an ambassador for the 2022 World Parkinson's Congress in Barcelona. He's also the national director of talk radio for Chorus Entertainment in Canada. And Rebecca is on the World Parkinson's Congress Care Partner Lounge and Care Partner Virtual Panel Series planning committees. She's a workshop instructor at the British Columbia Brain Wellness Program and is a writer as well. Larry and Rebecca will be talking today about Parkinson's in the family, managing change and maintaining connection. It is our honor to have you join us here in Connecticut, Larry and Rebecca. Welcome.
Thanks for having us. We're honored to be here. Thanks to Tara and Rachel and Dr. Marcata and the APDA in Connecticut for inviting us here. It's a real thrill. We used to live in Connecticut, so it's good to be back in Connecticut.
Virtually.
The Parkinson's Awareness Month, this is the last day. It's hard to believe, but it gives us an opportunity to connect with people all around the globe, and including you folks there. And different organizations, and it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what's happening in the world of Parkinson's disease and connect with everybody here.
And we want to start with just a brief overview for those who may not know some of our more personal details. We've been married for 21 years. Our son is 11 years old, as was mentioned before, and we both grew up in Ohio and have lived all over the country, mostly on the West Coast, but we did spend a happy year in Connecticut, living in West Hartford, and have very fond memories of that place and where you all are from. And 5 years ago, we moved to Canada. Okay. And then 4 years ago, our family was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease.
Yes, and it was about, I guess, 9 months after the diagnosis. During that 9 months, I was in denial that I even had the disease. I wake up and I go, I think it's gone.
Nope, you still have it.
Still have it. And so you go through the whole mourning process and the sort of grieving process. And once I finally embraced that I had Parkinson's, I was ready to start sharing my story. And that's when the podcast started, about a year after diagnosis.
And we're in the third season now. And it's very exciting. We've had such fun telling our stories. Because of the podcast, we have been fortunate to explore the Parkinson's community and connect with a lot of people and learn a ton about the disease from all of these experts and care partners and people with Parkinson's alike. But we are aware we are not researchers, physicians, social workers. And honestly, we haven't been in the community that long. We still have a lot to learn. And there are things that those of you out there are experiencing or have experienced that we haven't yet.
Yeah, in fact, we're storytellers. We're not researchers, we're searchers. We're curious. We're ready to explore the Parkinson's world. And today we're going to talk about our experiences and tell you some stories. And we hope it offers you what others, what others need: your connection, hope, perspective, ideas, the comfort that comes when you discover someone else feels or experiences something the same way that you do.
That's what we experience when we hear all of your stories. And so we want to offer a little bit of that too.
There are so many opportunities for connection, inspiration, hope, expression, and progress that comes when we share our stories, and we're grateful for them. We also know that what you see out in the world, what they see out in the world, is only a fraction of anyone's Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, the real challenges, as you all well know, and the opportunities for growth present themselves in those life moments when you're in the kitchen, in the car, at the grocery store. And one of our life moments that we want to share with you is at a child's birthday party.
4 years old. It was a 4-year-old birthday party right around Halloween last year.
Yes, his birthday is Halloween, so it was Halloween themed.
And it was, we were all in the COVID, right in the heart of it. So we hadn't seen people in a while. It was our first time out and about with other folks.
Everybody had masks on for safety. It was outdoors, but then everybody had costumes on as well.
And it was at night, so it was dark.
Yes.
And they had
lights
and movie projections and kids everywhere.
And sugar. Lots of Halloween sugar. And
as the party went on, I'm like, oh, it was weird seeing people to begin with. And then like with everybody racing around with the lights and the darkness, like I started to sort of get really anxious. And so I grabbed Beck's hand and I said, we gotta go.
Well, and the interesting backstory there is that Larry is by far the extrovert in our relationship. He would be the last to leave at a party, if at all possible. Extremely people oriented. I'm usually the introvert who says, okay, we need to go. I think it's too much stimuli, too much going on. I've had enough of people. It's time to go. So we flipped in that moment. And it was the first occasion that had happened. And so it was kind of a wake up call to us. Wow. Okay. This anxiety thing with the Parkinson's is serious and something that is going to change how we need to move forward with things like social occasions.
Yeah, and our family has been challenged with more than that over the course of the last 4 years. We've had to slow everything down and plan ahead more, and then realize that even though you've planned ahead, things might change.
Yes, adapt.
Oh yeah, we make those lunch plans, and I can't go to lunch. And we get comfortable with adaptation, maintaining balance. Everything's moving and advancing, and your symptoms are changing. So you're constantly looking for those moments of balance in your life. And the progression never stops. It's just constantly, you're readjusting hour to hour, day to day, month to month. And self-care and exercise. And that one took me a lot. I realized there was one point where I realized I need to put my health and myself as a priority. Right. And when I listed the things that I was spending my time on, that was the last thing I was doing. So we needed to flip that chart. And so, avoiding exercise is not a good idea if you have Parkinson's. So now I embrace it.
Well, and as far as self-care, boundaries have been really important for us. We've always been somewhat aware of them, but even more so since Parkinson's joined the family, where you really have to be aware of what you are able to handle, be really honest with yourself, and then be willing to set the appropriate boundary and say no to the things that you say no to. This one took us a little bit. Many of you may be a little further along in that learning process, but this one took us a little bit and we're still learning.
Yeah, for sure. It's changed how we plan and don't plan.
Yes, for career and employment, finances, housing, travel, even pets. There are certain pets that we discovered sometimes a little bit too late are not compatible with Parkinson's, and we still suffer with the delusions sometimes that we can do everything that we used to and make the same kind of choices, but a lot of our choices have had to change.
Yeah, even we're looking at housing, finding a place that doesn't have so many stairs, because
Right.
I was having some falls in December, and we're like, okay, maybe it's time to start looking.
Right. But one of the main things that we've learned is that uncertainty and change are our constant companions. And those of you out there with Parkinson's in your life know that this was the case well before COVID, right? COVID just made it a little extra, right? But we're all we all have to be really comfortable, or at times as comfortable as we can be with uncertainty and change. And one of the ways that we deal with that, and many of you have probably learned this as well, is to embrace the present moment. And then, and part of that for us is also to use meditation and mindfulness practices. We are fortunate to have been using those practices for many years before Parkinson's entered the family. So we had some of those tools available. Our challenge is sometimes remembering to use them rather than reacting.
Right before we did this.
So did I. So we're still using them and learning from them.
How are we doing on letting go of control?
It's more of a challenge for me than it is for Larry. But certainly Parkinson's and being a care partner of a person and having to adapt and be flexible is certainly challenging that and offering me lots of opportunities for growth where that's concerned. And certainly a part of that is also just being okay with not being okay. That's part of the control issues as well. For me, it was such a big opportunity to acknowledge and allow myself to be in when I react to the control, because I'm losing control, and then I see myself kind of reacting to it or having an emotional reaction or starting to feel out of control or starting to feel overwhelmed, and then kind of returning to the tools, but also allowing myself and forgiving myself for having those very natural human reactions.
And then mourning or grieving. I think it's a really important that, you don't hold on to your past life so much. I mean, it's hard to let go of all those things that you used to be able to do and accept that you are now different, that there's different boundaries, there's different limitations. Like, I can't do more than I think I've got like 5 spoonfuls of energy a day. So there's like 5 projects or errands or events or playtime or whatever that I can do. And then after I've done 5, some days it's 4, I'm over. I know it every day.
Well, and some days it's by noon. He's done with his 4 or 5 spoonfuls, and it might be Saturday.
Yeah.
And that's a family day for us. And so we all have to kind of adapt around that, but really allowing yourself to grieve and go through that kind of continuous, as many people with Parkinson's in their life understand, that kind of continuous grieving process as the disease progresses.
And try not to get too far into the future.
Yes, stay in the present moment as much as possible, planning for the future so that you're not worrying about the future. We're still learning to do that.
Yeah, and to be able to manage Parkinson's, it's in the family, and keeping all of these things in mind as we go through life, just regular life. We came to understand that it is critical to rediscover and rethink how we maintain our family connections. We learn to unlearn and relearn how to maintain our family connections and the relationship dynamics and how we go about communicating with each other. We had to relearn to be with Parkinson's in the family.
Yeah, and communication was is our main focus of that right now, because it's presenting a lot of challenges. And so we welcome the opportunity to kind of talk about what some of our challenges are, and then maybe offer you some tools that we've learned to use that may be helpful to you.
For us right now, first, a little backstory. Communication is really big for us because we're both communicators. We're storytellers. She's a writer. I've been on radio for 30 years. Storytelling is what we do on the podcast. It's like, it came natural to us, even in dating.
And it was how we connected in a lot of ways. We were actually long distance for a long time in the beginning of our relationship. So emails, phone calls, really learning to connect through the words and through how we were sharing. And we really got this we developed this great foundation of vulnerable, honest communication and the trust that comes with that. So it feels like a big loss to us for communication to be a challenge for us, because Parkinson's has certainly presented that challenge.
And our life experiences, while we experience them together and we're still intimately connected, we are sort of diverging. I can't understand what it's like to be a care partner of somebody with a degenerative brain disease, and she can't understand what it's like to be somebody with a degenerative brain disease. And so on the surface, we can see this gap widening, especially in communication.
Yes. And some of the challenges have been things like, just from a practical standpoint, having to tell Larry things multiple times before it sinks in. Recording, if anybody with a marketing background, he needs 3 impressions
at least
before it really enters and in his memory. And also changing, and also things like nuance. Larry struggles with picking up on the nuances of communication, things that are implied rather than said directly. And this has actually been a point of frustration for us, and we're still kind of in the midst of finding perspective and humor and the growth that comes from this particular challenge. Do you want to tell the picnic story?
Well, yeah. So one Sunday morning, we were trying to figure out what to do, and we have a favorite place to go bird watching. And so we thought, oh, let's go bird watching. We needed to go to the grocery store. I said, hey, you know what we should do? We should have a picnic. And Rebecca's doing her list, and she goes, okay, so we're going to go to the grocery store first, and then we'll go to the bird place, and then we'll come home. And I said, okay. And
so we went to the grocery store, and Henry and I were picking out things like ready-made sandwiches and the ready-made salads, and making sure that we had cutlery and things like that. And Larry walks up to the counter with bratwursts in a package.
Sounded delicious.
And a pretzel bun.
Yeah.
I went, oh, okay, well, are they pre-cooked? And I looked on the thing and said, okay, well, they're pre-cooked. Okay. And then, so we leave the grocery store and we're driving to our spot. And as we're pulling up to the spot and he sees the picnic tables, Larry goes, oh, you do want to have a picnic?
She never said, let's have a picnic. She never agreed to the picnic.
Because I never said, I said, well, of course we're having a picnic. That's why we went to the grocery store first. And in Larry's mind, you may be able to want to describe this better. I didn't say it directly.
You didn't say it directly. So you said, go to the grocery, go to the birds real quick, and then come home. And I thought, well, okay, well, if we're at the birds real quick, then we're coming home to have lunch.
And clearly we're not having a picnic.
Yeah, clearly.
And in my mind, I went, oh, okay. So if we're going to go there, then we'll be sure to go to the grocery store before we go to have the picnic, so that we have some things ready-made so that we can have the picnic.
Yeah.
And so I would love to say that we laughed about this at the time and we're super generous with each other and graceful about it. But we were not, at least in the moment. We're laughing about it now, thank goodness. But in the moment we were not. And it was really a point of kind of infuriation and irritation and frustration just with Parkinson's, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we never had to say things explicitly like that before. So that was a bit of a wake-up call for us.
Yeah. And you know, it's absolutely an ongoing, evolving process. We may never be done learning about this, because it's changing all the time. So I think it's going to be a constant education.
Yep.
We've discovered some things, though, to help us navigate through these challenging times and help our evolving family and our changing brains. And Beck, let's share some of the tools we've discovered.
Okay. Well, one of the things that Parkinson's has taught us is that intention is very important. And making communication in any manner a priority, it matters. So we want to communicate well and be heard. We want to listen and be present with each other. We know we can't let our attention to this slide. We share with each other, we share this priority and understand the challenges within it. We both value our relationship enough to continue to work on it and find solutions, or at least acknowledge when things aren't going well and that we need to maybe look for some solutions once we're moving through it. We know our stories matter to the other person, all of them, and we want and are able to hear them. And as long as we share this foundation and intention, we know that we have a better chance of figuring the rest of it out.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we've discovered is the importance of absolute trust.
Yes.
You know, having that relationship where you can say anything, even things that may come across as hurtful or unkind in the moment, being able to sit there and hear it and digest it and go, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize I was doing that. It's hard. These conversations are difficult to have.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, especially in the heat of the moment, we won't talk about it. We'll take a breath. We'll say, okay, we're not going to get anything accomplished right now. So let's take some breaths, and in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. And
it's important to us to be vulnerable in those and have the trust that we can be vulnerable in those conversations and not be fearing the other person judging us or fearing that they're going to leave the conversation or leave the relationship because we say something difficult. So we have that absolute trust, and that we know, and because of that, we know that we can at least move through the challenging times.
Even if what we say happens to come fumbling out of our mouths in a very
which happens a lot,
ungraceful way.
Yes.
That said, we've also learned it's important to have some level of discernment about how and when and where we have these conversations.
Yeah, on a practical level, we've just discovered some things that we have to. We've mentioned a couple of them already, but one of them is we both communicate more clearly and are able to focus best in the mornings. So, and early afternoon, sort of. Right. So if anything really challenging or important needs to be discussed, and we both need to be focused, we do it earlier in the day. We have a standing rule that we learned actually from another speaking engagement that somebody propped up with this rule for their family, and we stole it. After 5 o'clock, we don't talk about anything too difficult or abstract or anything that requires too much brain power, because chances are good it's not going to go well.
No open-ended questions after 5 o'clock.
Nope.
And then the other thing is, I need to tell you things more in the future.
Yes.
I tend to show up and go, oh, you know what? We have that thing today. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or, oh yeah, we're going to go there, or we're going to do this. And the keeping her up to date on what I'm doing is difficult.
And that's new to Parkinson's, because one of Larry's superpowers used to be multitasking and organizing his life and his work especially. And that has become more of a challenge. So sometimes he doesn't do things or think about things until the last minute. And I am kind of a more of a planner. And so I need to know ahead of time when things are going to happen so that I can be prepared for whatever, because I'm usually juggling, the whole family in that situation. Yeah. And so I like to know ahead of time.
The other thing that happens in the afternoon, late afternoon, usually it's towards the end of my dosage, but not quite in time for my next dosage, is I end up in this bubble.
Yes.
This sort of, it's isolation. I don't notice what's going around me. I can't hear what's going around me. I'm just sort of zoned out. And we've had to get used to that.
Yes, and he kind of gets in a groove with talking about something where he gets in a one-track mind. So rather than multitasking, being able to kind of juggle or think about, well, that's not an important detail, he just kind of spills out all the details. And that's new. That's new for Larry.
Yeah. And then laughter. It's important to have laughter. We laugh a lot in our house. You know, you know, you either laugh or you cry, and we do both. And sometimes we laugh and then we cry and then we snort and then snot comes out and then we laugh again.
Right. Well, and laughter offers such perspective, right? And it helps us keep our egos in check, because the ego is never really a helpful thing when it comes to communication. And it's just silliness. Our son is so good at bringing the silly into any conversation. So if you have kids, grandkids, other kids in your life that like to be fully kids like ours does, then embrace that and allow that to kind of move through your family. And Larry, Henry is famous for, when he gets into a really good laugh, just kind of getting on the floor and rolling around and having a full body laugh. And we should all do that every once in a while. It's healing.
Yeah, I think I hear him listening in the corner.
Right. Well, the other important thing is to really notice and celebrate the good times through laughter or through celebration, a proper celebration, but sometimes just a fist bump. Or if you're a person with Parkinson's and your care partner if you're in a romantic relationship, give a kiss every time that something goes well, something that you've been working on and you do it well. And it's really important to kind of embrace the positive moments.
And along those lines, don't forget to tell your partner or your person with Parkinson's how much you appreciate and care for them, how much you love them, how helpful they're being. You know, that kind of communication oftentimes we forget to do.
Yeah.
And it's really important, because we're doing different things in our lives now, and we sometimes forget that other people are also doing and having to deal with the Parkinson's in the family.
Well, and it's really easy to focus on the things that aren't going well, and to want to try to fix things, or, okay, well, this is going well, but what else can we focus on, rather than kind of thinking about, well, you know, what happened today that was really great? What am I really, really grateful for? And there's so much to be grateful for in our relationship and for him being in my life, and kind of shifting that focus. Allowing yourself to move through when you're feeling bad, like truly feel when you're feeling bad. We've learned to do that for ourselves. But then also kind of returning to what am I really grateful for? What does this bring to my life?
Well, and on those days that are really tough, well, hello.
Doorbell.
Doorbell's ringing.
Life, Zoom life, right?
With along those lines, on those days that are really not so good, being able to look at you and go, "You're amazing. You're so special, and I appreciate everything you do, and I love you very much." If she's having a bad day, that just sort of helps.
Yes.
You know.
And then I can remember that on those days when it's not so happy, and we're having one of those dark days that we all understand.
Well, and we don't have a lot of control over what's happening with the disease, and so that can be frustrating, and you know, and you can feel like you're not helping. So by telling you how valuable you are and how helpful you're being, it just sort of reinforces that.
Yeah.
You do make a difference.
Thanks.
Yes.
So do you.
Thank you. And adaptation is key to everything for Parkinson's. I mean, we are adapting all the time. Like, you know, the doorbell rings and we just got to acknowledge it. And communication's no different. You know, balance is important. You know, saying yes as often as you say no. Self-care is really important. And discerning what fills your cup and what takes away from what empties your cup. That's been very helpful for me. Like, is this thing gonna help fuel my day and my life, or is this going to take away? And so, like, saying yes to the APDA in Connecticut fills my cup.
Right. Well, and that helps everything. So that when that's going well, then, and we're able to kind of move through life a little more gracefully, then the communication happens more gracefully as well. But we're learning fast that we have to be willing and able to adapt. As the poet Mary Oliver, she's one of my favorites, wrote this line that I love: "I row my beautiful temporary body through this water lily world."
Oh.
So we're learning to embrace the challenge and comfort that comes from everything being temporary. There is beauty and growth to be found in the constant evolution of things. And there is beauty in every day that we spend with Parkinson's in the family.
Yes, our family, like your family, is facing a challenge, but because of Parkinson's, every day we're also face to face with great, amazing people like you, community that is so full of love and life. Stories, your stories are amazing.
The strength and resilience found in the Parkinson's community is unmatched, I believe.
Your commitment to make a difference in our community and in our disease, just the connection we make around the world and the opportunities that we see. And for me, I feel so loved. I get love from you and from my family, but also from the community. I was so scared to come out and say that I had Parkinson's. And when I did, the feeling of unconditional love that came at me was so empowering and strong. I never had felt it from so many different sources before, even though it existed.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me I wanted to do it again. Let me just tell
And so
people.
you do it every time with the podcast.
So I go, hi, I'm Larry, and I've got Parkinson's disease. Give me a hug.
Well, because of Parkinson's, we also get the opportunity to connect with wonderful organizations like this one, that you are working to make our lives easier and bring hope to people with Parkinson's and their families. And we are so grateful for you inviting us to be part of your work and wonderful event this week. It's been a true pleasure to speak with you.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you, Larry and Rebecca. I can't imagine ending this week with a more inspirational presentation. Larry and Rebecca, thank you for being a beacon of hope for our community and showing us that we can always choose to enjoy life with a laugh and love. I'm sure our audience has a lot of questions, so type them in the chat box on your screens and we'll certainly do our best to get to each one of them. Amanda's going to be taking over for the Q&A portion, so I'm going to pass it to her, Amanda.
Hi there.
Hello.
So there are a couple questions that came in for you guys. We have, let's see, I am a big fan of your podcast.
Yay.
What is the next step for you in this journey?
Well,
we have kind of followed a thematic journey through the podcast. So the first one was largely about Larry kind of coming to terms with diagnosis and learning about Parkinson's.
yeah, it was all about the diagnosis and learning about it.
Right.
Second one was about, embracing it in our lives.
And
the
third season is all about advocacy and advocating for yourself, advocating for the community, for Cure for Parkinson's, for better treatments and services and whatnot for care partners. But we don't know what the next theme will bring.
Well, the next theme will actually be World Parkinson Congress.
Well, yes, there's a little interim period where he will do a series on the World Parkinson Congress and our involvement, but everything
leading up to it. We'll talk to the speakers before the event and stuff. And that'll happen early in 2022 or after this season, which ends at the end of June. We will take a break until 2022 because
we need a break.
We need a break.
Absolutely.
We love it, but it's intense and we need a break.
For sure. What are you going to be doing at World Parkinson Congress? Do you have a specific role or?
Yeah, well, it's some of that is still being finalized, but I'm going to.
They're not sure if it's going to be in person the way that it had been planned in Barcelona. Those decisions are still being made.
But there's a possibility that I'll be the host of the wrap-up session, and that'll be the podcast from the World Parkinson Congress. The PD Avengers, which is pdavengers.com if you've not signed up. It's a coalition of people from around the world that have Parkinson's, their partners and friends, so it's for everybody. It's we're uniting to help end Parkinson's. And we're looking to have 1 million people by the end of next year. It's free, and we'll never ask you to raise money. And the
And they will
APDA is a good partner of ours. So.
And they'll have a presence at World Parkinson Congress. And I'm going to be involved in the Care Partner programming. The Care Partner Lounge, for anybody who's been to the Congress, is a room that's set aside and that has some support and other information available just for care partners. And it's really only for care partners, but they're going to do a bit more programming associated with directly with care partners in the lounge this year, or next year. So I'm part of that. And I think a lot of it is still TBD because we don't know exactly how it's going to happen yet.
And I'm also an ambassador, so I'm going to have some duties.
Right.
That Eli is going to put me to work doing something. I don't know.
But we would love to meet all of you there.
Yes, it's going to be fun. And we'll be drinking sangria. I think that's
We'll have some tapas. Come have tapas with us.
I know. I hope that it takes place. And
Right.
Barcelona is a great place. So let's see, Larry, what type of exercise are you doing? Since enjoyment for exercise doesn't come naturally for you, how do you get it done?
Well, so I bought a TheraCycle. And so now, because I work from home because of COVID, I use that as my morning commute. So before I go to my in-house office, I've got to go on the TheraCycle, and that's how I get my exercise in. And I also do improvisational theater. And like yesterday, I was crawling around acting like a fish.
He was.
And I was all sweating. So I figured that's kind of exercise
It counts. It counts. Yeah, it was quite a process for Larry to kind of come to terms with exercising being necessary for his quality of life and to slow the progression of the disease, because he's spent a lot of his life resisting exercise, at least traditional exercise. He would play games, tennis, and other things, but not so much of the ones that really get your, a controlled aerobic exercise.
Golf was good.
Right. So I'm very proud, and anybody who's listened to the podcast knows this a bit of his journey on this. And so I'm really impressed with all the work that you've done to get yourself into place. And now he's exercising regularly and benefiting from it.
I was going to say, do you feel better? Do you feel different?
Yeah, I do. I notice it when I don't exercise. I tend to cramp up more, and for me, it's great in the morning because I'm really stiff in the morning, and so I just, and I do what I can. If like right now I'm up to 12 minutes, and I work with a physiotherapist, a neurophysio, and she's like, just go up 1 minute per week until you get to 30 minutes. And so, we just got the TheraCycle and, like 12 weeks ago or something. And so I had an ankle injury. So we're just building up to it. And
yeah, but he works up a sweat. He does it properly. He uses the resistance and he uses his arms, and
it's a full workout. Yeah,
Yep.
It's great.
So Alice says, I have early onset Parkinson's. I was an RN, now unable to do that. I'm having a very difficult time in letting that go. How do you have any suggestions?
What, being a nurse, you mean?
Well, letting go that she's unable to continue being an RN right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Tim Haig, who's a friend of ours, was an RN, and
had to make that tough decision. Has talked about it and written about it in his book as well.
And Sonia Mather was a doctor, had family practice, and she had to give that up. I tell you, it's hard. I'm still working, but I'm in the process of giving away about half my responsibilities because I just can't do it all right now. And it's hard. You don't want to admit that you can't do what you used to be able to do. But what I've learned is just because you can't do what you train for doesn't mean that you don't add value to people's lives and that you can't make a difference in the world. And so just know that just because you physically can't do it, it doesn't mean that all this information that you have doesn't come into use. You need to find a new way to use your superpower.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say, Alice, you would be a great asset to supporting or advocating for the Parkinson's community as somebody who has an RN.
Yes.
Yes, you've experienced it from both sides. You have great stories to tell. Yeah.
So Suzanne says, communication has proved to be the most difficult aspect since My partner with Parkinson's diagnosis was 4 years ago. Often he doesn't seem to take in what I've said, but gets angry if I ask him to confirm what I said, if it's something that is important. I definitely don't ask for answers late in the afternoon, evening, but I'm really struggling with this as his care partner.
I get frustrated too,
Yeah.
because it's reminding me that I have that issue. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful when she does. We just had that yesterday where I said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this bill due," and she's like, "I could have known that about a week ago. That would have been nice, you know." And then she's like, "You have to remember, you know, to tell me these things."
Yeah. And he does react sometimes when I talk about, you know, when I repeat something and he's recognizing that I'm repeating it. And because there's an awareness of that. So as a care partner, from that perspective, it's my greatest asset with that is empathy and patience. I am not empathetic and patient in every moment and every time, but that's my intention. And so just remembering that, and, you know, and also remembering that some of that crankiness comes from the disease of just kind of the personality switch. And maybe, you know, somebody else, I'm not an expert, but somebody else may be able to speak to this more, but there is a kind of, at least with Larry, there's a personality kind of switch that happens, and he's triggered into anger a lot more quickly than he used to be. So finding patience and then just kind of, you know, backing off and waiting for a different moment to communicate. I don't know that there's a great answer to that or a perfect answer.
You could ask
every
him.
Relationship is different.
You could ask him how he wants to be reminded, or
yeah, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a, you know, a whiteboard or, you know, some way that so that it doesn't sound like, you know, repetitive talking or nagging, if that's how he's reading it. Then, you know, if there's a different way to communicate, send me an email or a text every day at noon with the things that I need to remember or
lists
something.
are great for me, because if I have a list, then I can cross them off, and we have a whiteboard, and then sometimes she'll just leave me a note or something like, these things need done. Like I forget, like, oh, we have to run the dishwasher before you go to bed, or
something that's a visual reminder.
Yeah.
I guess we do have a whiteboard over there.
Yeah. Every day.
Do you use it? What do you put on the whiteboard?
Well, right now it's got our son's stuff on it.
It has a list for our son on it there right now, so it wouldn't apply. But things like when we have a lot of things to remember, and I find myself repeating myself about, you know, this busy week, these are the 7 things you need to remember.
Like,
then we kind of default to the whiteboard. We
need to schedule an appointment with the tax guy. We need to you know, clean the bathrooms or whatever. You know.
Right.
Okay. Let's see what else. I think along the same lines of the question that we just went over, can you give an example of 3 impressions to get into the brain? Do you repeat or reword? Give an example.
Yeah.
So it's kind of using other creative solutions, whiteboard, write things down.
Yes. Because the first one will usually be verbal, or it'll be, I forward him an email that came in that's to both of us or relating to something that deals with both of us. So I forward him the email, and then it'll be verbal. And then the next one may be another written reminder, or I'm re-forwarding that email to him or something like that. That's actually a really great reminder, kind person who asked this question, that just doing it the same way every time doesn't always work. And then I pick my moments. So it's usually in the morning. And on some busy weeks, whether it's the whiteboard or maybe we set aside time every morning at 7 o'clock or something, and we need to, okay, well, let's go over the things that we need to go over for this week. And then just kind of using those opportunities. I don't know that we do the 3 impressions the same every time. It depends on the content. But yes, to kind of mix it up is helpful, and picking your moments at the right time of day, using the language that they can understand, usually being for Larry, for Larry being very direct.
Okay, very specific, detailed, direct.
Yes.
Good.
And but not too many details, like only the details that he needs to know.
That are important. That are
right. Because if it's too many details, then that's too much to juggle, right?
Okay. All right. What about sharing a calendar? Like sharing a joint calendar? That might be.
That wouldn't work for us right now because they're very, very different. We have a calendar that's collected, and we'd make sure to, we're both doing this. We both pull out whatever calendar we're using, which is usually our phones, and plug it in and set the same kind of reminder and make sure that we both have all the information that we need and get that on there. But his calendar is chock full of work meetings and Zoom meetings and everything else. It would just get really cluttered if we share the calendar. Right. Yeah. We do use the calendars, and we use reminders, and we use the technology for that. And that does help us juggle and stay on the same page, and use little, the tech reminders sometimes help. That can serve as an impression.
Yeah.
You said tech reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be really creative, and there's lots of tools and technologies and things out there that can help us.
Yes, we found that really helpful.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of the podcasts with you guys communicating and kind of catching up at the end, and it seems like you have had to really learn some new communication styles and practice them, and it's an inspiration.
And we're not perfect.
No, it's still in process.
Right?
It's evolving.
So Jean, asked, I guess she's asking about freezing. Jean asks, do you have any tips on how to, do you have any tips on how to manage freezing when turning toward your next step? Right hand cutting food. So it's a little chopped up, Jean. I can't really, I'm living alone, so hints appreciated. Writing checks, writing phone numbers. Rachel, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. I think there was a separate one that she added, and I suspect that it is a freezing of gait question. But she says, does stopping, planning your next step, breathing deeply, then moving help you? Suggestions that you may offer. So just tips on freezing of gait.
Yeah, so I don't freeze a lot. I freeze at the airport security.
Every time.
Every time. And the advice that I've gotten is don't step forward, step backwards or step to the side, and you could, or sidestep. So get your brain to think about doing something else.
That's exactly right. A lot of times we hear patients say they use something rhythmic to sort of break the freeze. So even something as simple as 1, 2, 1, 2 to just distract them and keep moving, or singing a song in their head. So if you're singing and you start thinking about something else, and then that'll help break the freeze. So just an outsider tip.
Great. Yeah.
I don't see any additional questions on my end, but I did want to ask, Rebecca, what do you do to fill your cup? Or what do you have to do for yourself? And how do you know when it's time that you need to do something for yourself?
Yeah. I make sure that I have projects that are my own and that aren't necessarily related to Parkinson's. I do work for clients and do magazine writing and other things that has nothing to do with Parkinson's. And even if they suggest, do you want to do something about Parkinson's? I say, no, not really, because I need to have something that's my own and that fills my cup, and not just something else, but something that actually fills my cup and that I find meaningful and joyful. That's been really important. When I start to get too distracted by the things, my warning sign is when I start to feel overwhelmed because I'm distracted by the things that are not filling my cup, but the things that are necessary, because we can't, I would love it if we all could make choices where everything fills our cup, but there are also things that you have to deal with, like COVID right now, and other things that don't necessarily fill your cup, but are necessary for life and survival and thriving. And parenting and things like that, right? So when I start to feel overwhelmed by having too much of that and having taken on too much, I know what that feels like as far as in my body and in my brain when I start to get kind of cyclical thoughts because there's too much going on. Then I use my mindfulness tools. So on a day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis, I use the mindfulness tools. I have my own version I'm also using, and I know that organizations like yours do a lot of great things and have mindfulness and meditation workshops and things that you can do. Even exercise is very meditative for a lot of people, gets you out of, gets you into the present moment. Any kind of, any mindfulness tool that you could use. For me, I have my own toolbox of mindfulness tools. Writing helps that as well. I use that as a tool for resilience and to release things when I start to feel overwhelmed, to clarify when things are confusing or overwhelming. I use those tools as well. But the trigger is that I literally feel it in my body, and I'm just aware of what that feels like. And then also the kind of cyclical thoughts. And when I feel that start to spin out of control, then I use my tools to rebalance.
Thank you. I just want to send it back to Rachel for the wrap up. And I just wanted to extend a very personal thank you for being with us today. And I am a big fan.
Well, thank you so much.
It was a
It's
pleasure.
great to be here.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. And thank you, Amanda. It's been an incredible honor for me to have had this opportunity to host all of you for APDA Connecticut's 2021 Annual Educational Symposium. I hope you have all enjoyed being with us for this event, and please do follow us at apdaparkinson.org/CT or on our Facebook page, APDA Connecticut Chapter. Remember that we have support groups all over Connecticut, so once it's safe again for all of us to meet in person, call me at 860-734-6393, and I'll connect you with the support group nearest to you. In the meantime, join us for our virtual support groups, exercise classes, and community events. You can find them all at apdaparkinson.org. We look forward to seeing you again next time, and don't forget to fill out the program evaluation form that you'll be receiving via email so you can share your feedback and comments with all of us. On behalf of the spectacular board of the APDA CT chapter and the Information and Referral Center, I wish you all a blessed rest of the year and the safest of journeys through life. Until next time.